Hello, my name is Barbara Leland, and I'm a certified holistic health coach in Huntington Beach, and I do the healthy eating classes here at Hoag Cancer Center. So last week we talked about changing habits, and there's not really a food that goes with changing habits. There's not a magical fruit or a magic bean that you can take that can help you change your habits. But some of us have been thinking about changing our habit in the way of eating more plant-based foods. So that led right into the recipes for today. So let's talk a little bit about plant-based foods. And so if one of those habits are that you'd like to eat more plant-based foods and eat less animal products, you've definitely come to the right place and you're not alone. This cow is very happy that you are eating less of him. So this has become quite trendy to eat less meat, but it's a trend that's very, very worthy. Because studies have shown that eating a diet based plant-based is one of the healthiest ways to eat. It's beneficial in lowering cancer, in fighting cancer, lowering blood pressure, reduces diabetes risk, it fights heart disease, bad cholesterol, increases good cholesterol, and the list really goes on. And what you want to do, again, when we're trying to work on a habit, you want to crowd out the bad and put in the good. So the good will push the bad out of your diet. So for example, when this is a dessert, this is a baked apple, they're both delicious. You'd think baked apples are good for me, right? Well, traditional baked apples, the apple part's good, but that's where it stops because you have butter, you have sugar, brown sugar, I believe. The topping is whipped cream. Maybe it's going to be very delicious, but maybe not the health food you're looking for. But the bottom apple is made with apples again, same, but that's where the comparison stops. It has nuts, it has a little bit of maple, the topping is cashew cream, which we're going to discuss today, and they're both super delicious, but the one on the bottom is also good for you. It's so good for you, you could have it for breakfast. So again, as we usually say, what we want to do is we want to eat food, whole food, not too much, mostly plants. And there'll be time for questions after the cooking demo. And if you have any questions, please go ahead and put them into the chat. And if you think of questions later, you can always email me at 2life-2health@hotmail.com and visit me on my website at www.2life-2health.com. But now let's get cooking. So we're going to be working with cashews today, and we're going to make a cashew cream. But I just wanted to talk a little bit about the benefit of cashews. So cashews are full of fiber. They help clean out your gut bacteria in your intestines and reduces the risk of colon cancer. They have healthy fats, and healthy fats provide energy. They support cell growth. They lower your risk of heart disease, lower the LDL cholesterol, and they're satiating. So they help keep you full, and you're not going to be grabbing for bad-for-you snacks because you're already feeling satisfied. Cashews are anti-inflammatory. They're high in important minerals such as iron, and copper, and magnesium, okay? So those are the things that we're looking for when we're eating whole foods. It's not just a matter of it being delicious, but what does it do for us as well, okay? So let's get cooking. And we're going to start with our basic, if you have the recipe, you can take a look at it. We're going to start with the basic cashew cream. And we're going to do it two ways. So I have already soaked the cashews. This was 2 cups of cashews last night. And I soaked them last night until this morning. And I just soaked them in at least twice as much water as the cashews. Not that they're going to grow to twice as big, but you just want to give them plenty of room to move. And what we'll do is we're going to go ahead and make 2 different batches. You could actually, when you're doing this, you could actually make 1 batch and have it, and then split it however you want to do it. But for this, we're going to do 2 batches so we don't have any contamination. So I'm going to put, I have a cup of cashews here, and they're about the same amount, even soaked. And I'm going to put a half a cup of water in both. If you want it to be thicker, you can use less water. If you want it to be thinner, you can use more water, of course. So let me just put on some gloves here, because hopefully some people will be eating this afterwards. And you can do this in your blender, but I tried it all. I have tried it in the food processor, and it does not work as well. So you want to do it in a blender, and it's very important that you soak the cashews overnight, because otherwise they're not going to be soft enough. They're going to be more grainy when you do it and more nutty. So you want to soak them at least overnight, at least 8 hours, and then preferably overnight. If you don't have time to soak them, if you forgot, you can boil them. Let's see, I think I put it in the recipe. You can boil them and then for 10 minutes and then let them sit. And let them sit for, I'd say, at least 2 hours. I've not tried it, doing it that way. I've always soaked them overnight, but I have read that it works. Okay? Also, what you could do, and I've done this before, is you could soak them and then put them in the freezer, rinse them really well. Make sure they're really well rinsed if you're not going to eat them right away. And then put them in the freezer. And that way, if you need to have soaked cashews at another time, you'll have them ready. All right? So I'm going to make some noise here. For me, for some reason, 30 seconds is always the magic number. I don't know why. I always leave things running for about 30 seconds and then check them. So what we have here is a perfect, nice, creamy sauce that you can use in a variety of recipes. And I'm going to do both of them. And I just give it a shake just to make sure the water is distributed. And again, 30 seconds. I'm interrupting that one because it didn't sound right. I might need to add a touch more water to this one. Yeah. So let me show you what I mean. This one is a little thicker. You see that? So maybe because when I have this jar instead of this, it blends a little differently. I'm not sure. But I'm just going to put a touch more water. Not too much. You can always add more, but you can't take it out. sounded better. And the sound I'm looking for is not where before it stuttered. I don't know if you could hear that or not, but it kind of stuttered like it was having a hard time. So you want it to get to a point where it's a smooth blending, so you know that it's going to be nice and creamy. So that's a little looser, you can see. Okay, so now that's it. That's your cashew cream. And you can stop right here, and you can, it's very bland. It doesn't taste like cashews. Soaking the nuts and rinsing them very well, the effect, it makes the cashews very neutral. So you have just a nice, creamy, neutral, almost a bechamel kind of taste. And then you can use that for your base. You can put it in soups. You can make a sauce out of it. You can use it as a cream on a dessert. Whatever you want to do with it, whatever you would use, like a whipping cream or a bechamel, something like that, okay? For example, when you're making a soup and you want to make it into a creamy soup, you can add this at the end like you would add cream. And just add as much as you want until it gets to the texture that you want or the richness that you want. Also, the nuts that we're using are called raw. You're going to buy them raw, but they are heat treated before they go to the stores. Just like almonds are, they are heat treated, and that's to get any toxins away that sometimes can be associated with cashews. Okay, so you don't have to worry about that. But don't get the roasted because they're not going to absorb the water. And you don't want salted, of course, because you don't want the salt in there. But you don't want the roasted because they're not going to absorb the water. And you really need them to absorb the water or they won't work. So first what we're going to do is make the Zoodles. The Zoodles, zucchini noodles, Zoodles. And I did it already because based on our time limitations, I didn't want to take up time doing that. But you can spiralize zucchini noodles with a spiralizer. I have an old one, it's like 20 years old, and it's a hand crank spiralizer. Now they have fancy electric ones. If you don't have a spiralizer at all, there are other options. You can use a peeler and make like thicker noodles. You can use a mandolin and like a julienne blade on the mandolin and make them into more like linguine, things like that. So there are other ways if you don't have the spiralizer. But the spiralizers are now pretty cheap now, and you can get them all over the place. Also, if you don't want to spiralize, or if you just want to try this out, and you don't want to get a machine or mess with peeling it, like making it like that, you can buy them already spiralized. So Trader Joe's has them in the frozen section. I've never tried them. Whole Foods has them in the like deli section or in the fresh section. I believe Sprouts carries them as well in the refrigerated section. So you can try it out and see if you like it before you buy a spiralizer, okay? But I have a spiralizer, so last night, this morning, I spiralized these. You can spiralize them even a couple days ahead. I think I wouldn't do more than a day ahead. Wrap them in a paper towel and then put them in plastic and put them in the fridge, okay? They'll stay nicely. So for our savory, we're going to add, let's see, what are we going to add? Now, I said to add 2 cloves of garlic, but I didn't, I thought it would be easier to just put in some everything bagel today because we're here instead of home. So I'm just going to put in, at home I wouldn't measure, but just to show you what I'm doing, I think that's a teaspoon. Let's see how it stirs up and how it looks. Oh no, we need much more than that. And what I'm looking for is I want to at least see the spice in there so that it's well distributed. And the Everything Bagel has salt in it, so that can help you also, because remember, when you're making like an Alfredo sauce, a traditional Alfredo sauce, you're making it with Parmesan, and so that has a lot of salt, and you don't have that here. So you want to make sure you add some salt to your taste, to whatever your taste is. I'm going to add oregano. I say 1 teaspoon here, okay? Or a little more, depending on how you like it. You can add some hot peppers if you like, a little spicy. I've brought some pesto with me. It smells good. It smells really good. Brought some pesto with me. I thought that might be a nice addition. And we'll make it a creamy pesto sauce. Now that's not on the recipe. It was something I just thought of this morning. So I'm going to add about that much pesto, and I do have a recipe on my website for a vegan pesto. You can make it vegan or use Parmesan cheese, depending on what you like. This one is vegan, so it just really depends. If you're making it vegan, you're going to want to add some nutritional yeast. And if you haven't worked with nutritional yeast, it has kind of a nutty taste, and it's it has a brown color, so it does change the color of your sauce. Okay, so now we have a light green creamy sauce that we're going to put into our Zoodles. And I made this week, and instead of, so you see how it's nice and creamy like an Alfredo, without any cream, without any butter, and without any cheese. This week I made this sauce, and I took some noodles as well, some spaghetti noodles as well. You can get whole wheat, you can get brown rice spaghetti noodles, you can get spaghetti noodles with made out of chickpeas, or you can just use traditional spaghetti noodles. But remember, if you're doing it with the Zoodles, it's going to be half the amount of pasta that you'd normally be eating. So it looks like pasta, and you get the mouthfeel of the pasta because you're combining it, but it's not. So that's kind of a nice little trick, especially if you're trying to go plant-based and other people in your family are not. You know, there's ways that you can get around it where they'll still enjoy the food a lot, and you'll be getting your plant-based meal. So you can make this as saucy as you like. I like it pretty saucy. And what I did the other night, usually we make this in the summer, and then we just eat it raw. But what I did the other night was I made it, I heated it up. After I combined everything together, I heated it up. I'm just going to use the whole thing here. And it was really delicious. And actually, that was the first time I ever did that. Not too much, because the zucchini has a lot of water in it, and it'll get watery. But just heat it up just a little bit. Your zucchini's actually still going to be raw, so that's lovely because you're getting all the enzymes of the zucchini because it's raw. You haven't killed them by cooking them. You're getting all the enzymes of the cashews because they're raw, essentially raw. And so you're getting a hugely healthy meal without trying. I mean, really, it's I said on my recipe that you could put some parsley, but I thought it would be nice to put a little bit of basil. So imagine that this is in your plate, and you're going to top it with some freshly cut basil. And you would do this at home. You're going to do it, you're going to slice it nicely, but it'll give it a nice flavor. It'll be much prettier when you do it at home. But there you go. Okay? So that's the savory way. Now, we're going to take that same cream base, cashew cream base, and we're going to, this morning I baked these apples. And these apples were these apples. So my recipe calls for, I believe, 4 or 6 apples. Correct. So this size, when you're using apples this little, you're going to do at least 6. This size, maybe you're going to do 4, but these are still somewhat small. But you've seen those big apples, and those are kind of a big commitment to eat. That's why I like to use the smaller ones. But in that case, you would only use 4 for this recipe. All right? So that same cream sauce, now we're going to, instead of adding the savory, we're going to add maple syrup. And what you can do if you don't want to use maple syrup, you can make a date paste. So I soak them first to make them nice and soft. Then you're going to add a little bit of water, and you're going to put them in the blender or in the food processor, depending on how strong your blender is, and make it into a paste. Then, if it calls for 2 tablespoons of maple syrup, use about 4 tablespoons of date paste. Okay, 4, not 5, 4. But for the ease of doing today's demonstration, I'm going to use maple syrup. And it's delicious with maple syrup. And let's see, I'm going to put 2 tablespoons of maple syrup. This I will measure. Oh, pretty good. 2 tablespoons of maple syrup in here. Half a teaspoon of vanilla. And I'm using the organic bourbon vanilla from Trader Joe's. And then you're going to mix that up. Don't use your savory spoon. Mix that up. When you do your apples, you just take an apple corer. I'm sure you know how to make a baked apple, but if you don't, you just take your apple corer and you core the apple all the way through. If your apple won't sit straight, cut the bottom a little bit just so that it'll sit even. And then you're going to stuff it. What I stuffed it with was, I did not use raisins, like it says optional raisins. I stuffed it with pecans today and a little bit of maple syrup and cinnamon. I mixed those up before I stuffed it, and then I stuffed them in. So you see, they're stuffed in the core of the apple. And if you use a bigger apple, you can make a bigger circle, and you could put the raisins too. I didn't really have room to do the raisins. Then when you're ready to serve, you're going to take, now remember this recipe is for 4 big ones or 6 small ones, so it's going to be a lot of cream here. But you're just going to take the cream, put it on top. It might be nicer if you do it on a flat plate, actually, so that they can see the sides of the apple and they can see the cream falling down. But we didn't do that today. And really, it looks delicious and it smells wonderful. And then you have all this delicious cream left over, which is nice. Or I have, actually. Okay, then take a few, you can put granola on top. I like it with just pecans or walnuts, and you can just sprinkle that on top of the apples. And then you might want to sprinkle just a tad of cinnamon on top, just to make it look pretty. And voila. How's it look? Does it look good? It's going to taste good, I can tell you. So that's it. That's how you make cashew cream sauce 2 ways, but there are so many other things you can do with it. Like I said, you can add it to your smoothies if you want to make them more rich. You can add it to your soups. You can put it on vegetables. It'd be delicious on vegetables. Any place that you would use, on a savory situation, any place that you would use like a bechamel, or in a sweet situation, any place you would use like a cream sauce, like a whipped cream sauce, but not whipped. You know what I mean, like just a cream sauce that's going to be nice and smooth and delicious. Okay, so I have some questions. So let's see. What consistency are you aiming for when you make the cashew cream? Like regular dairy cream or what? Yes, so the consistency, you want it to be like that, okay? It's thicker than just cream by itself, but it's a little thinner than like a sour cream. So it pours. And it really depends on what you're using it for. If you can make it thicker if you want to use it like for a sour cream instead, like a base for a dip. There's another opportunity, is you can make a cashew cream dip and put roasted red peppers and spices and make a roasted red pepper cashew cream dip. So then you might want it a little thicker, okay? All right, I hope that answered the question. What brand of blender do you use? I love this blender. This is a Ninja, and I don't think they make them anymore, but they do make Ninjas, but they don't make this one. But it's a Ninja, and it came with a food processor and a blender, and then these two jars and blender blades for the jars and for the blender. So I like having one base, and then I can do everything else with it. And do I recommend it? Yes, I do. A Vitamix is also lovely. You know, as long as you get a nice, strong blender, you're going to be happy with it. Do you rinse the cashews after soaking? Thank you. Yes, absolutely. And as I was sharing, not to you, but before, I was telling some people that if you don't use the cashews the day after you soak them, make sure you rinse them before you put them in the fridge to use the next day. Because if you don't, it's going to form this horrible gelatin-like substance and I know it because it happened to me. So make sure you rinse them really well before you store them for another day. But try to use them that next day, unless you're going to freeze them. But again, before you freeze them, rinse them really, really well. Can you use other nuts? Almonds. I don't think you could use almonds for this, but what you could use, and thank you for asking, because some people can't eat cashews for certain reasons. You could use sunflower seeds. So it could be totally nut-free, and you could use sunflower seeds, and they will give you the same type of consistency. I have not done it myself, but I've seen it done. So yes, you can. I don't know about almonds. I don't think almonds are going to get soft enough. Peanuts, no. Peanuts might make a nice sauce because you can use that in a Thai sauce, but not for this type of situation. It's going to be too strong of peanuts. Almonds too, it's going to be too strong tasting. The cashews really are nice and neutral, and the sunflower seeds are pretty neutral as well. How long will spiralized zucchini last in the fridge if it's well sealed? I have read that it'll last about 4 days. I wouldn't keep it more than 2. I think it's going to just lose its. First of all, it might oxidize. You're going to lose some nutrients, and I think it might get too much water is going to leak out. Where do you buy nutritional yeast? Okay, nutritional yeast is everywhere now. You can buy it at Trader Joe's, of course. You can buy it at Sprouts. You can buy it at Whole Foods. You can probably buy it at your regular market. It has a interesting smell. It's a little nutty, and like I said, the color of it is brown, so expect it to change the color of your sauce. I didn't want to use it today. A lot of recipes for Alfredo sauce call for nutritional yeast, but I find it to be a little strong in this recipe and overpowering, and I like it better with without just using the spices. But if you want to make like a cashew cream cheese, like a macaroni and cheese kind of thing with cauliflower, like a cauliflower mac and cheese, vegan, then you would use the nutritional yeast, some mustard, some turmeric, salt, of course, and it makes a really nice cheesy kind of sauce. I think the thing for me is today I really wanted a white sauce. I wanted it to be white and creamy and not to have that brownness. But yeah, okay, where do you buy it was the question, sorry. Sprouts, Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, etc. Can this zoodle dish be heated and served warm? Yes. So that is what I did last night, and it came out super delicious. And I think I said I added a little spaghetti to it, and not much, just a little bit, and it just kind of made it a little bit more, because it was cold last night, it made it a little bit more comforting to have a little bit of that chew of the spaghetti. But really, when you warm up these noodles, these zoodles, it's delicious. They're good raw too in the summer. I like them a lot. But in the winter, I like them warmed up. How long will cashew cream keep in the refrigerator before you need to use it? Good question. I wouldn't keep it longer than 4 days. I'd like to use it sooner than that, but I think actually I do have some that I used, and I think it was about 4 days, and it was totally fine. Why bourbon vanilla instead of just regular vanilla? Because it tastes delicious. there's no health benefit to it. It just tastes delicious. So that's it. And I will be back again in a month, but not next month. So a month from now won't be February. It'll actually be March 1st, I believe, is my next class here. And please, if you have any questions after the fact, let me know at 2life-2health@hotmail.com. Visit me on my website, find me on Facebook, and I look forward to talking to you and seeing you again soon. Okay? Bye-bye.